Good afternoon and welcome everyone to Clark County Council Time this Wednesday, July 9th, 2025. Before we start with roll call, I'd just like to make an announcement largely to the people online that we had some technical glitches this morning, and that if you're using an old WebEx link to try to sign in, it's been revised, so you have to go to our website and click the new WebEx link to be able to participate. So, okay, and with that, let's do the roll call.
Councillor Young,
Here.
Councillor Belcott,
Present.
Councillor Fuentes,
Here.
Councillor Little,
Here.
Chair Marshall.
Here. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
I would like to reserve that to later. If the meeting goes quite long, we can move the executive session to next week. But if we're not going for hours and hours, we can keep it on. So I would like to play that one by ear and amend later.
You know, we never know for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll be flexible on that. Okay, so no amendments to the agenda. Let's move right on to public comment. Public comment is on agenda items only. You have a limit of 3 minutes. Is there anyone who's signed up?
We have a few. The first person is Peter Van Nortwick.
Welcome.
Council, thank you for this opportunity to address my concern. Agenda item 5.1 lists under new business the Clark County Clerk. Late yesterday afternoon, a slide deck on the clerk's office was posted, but not by the clerk's office. The county clerk is an elected official reporting to the citizens of Clark County. Under Article 3.1 of the Clark County Charter, the clerk is a member of the executive branch. Unlike the county manager, the clerk does not serve at the will of the council, but is elected by the voters of Clark County. I'm asking why you have this new business item concerning the Clark County Clerk on your agenda when the clerk is currently on vacation with his family. Section 2.6 of the charter specifically says council members shall not interfere in the administration of the executive branch. In addition, section 1.5 lays out the separation of powers between the legislative and executive powers. It says each branch is to dutifully fulfill its responsibilities and shall not extend its authority into the other branch. While this action may not violate the letter of the charter, I believe it violates the spirit of the charter. The charter in section 2.4 gives the council the power to levy taxes, appropriate revenue, and adopt budgets for the county. The council's responsibility is to properly fund the clerk's office. As you may be aware, the county has not provided sufficient resources to fund the appropriate management positions and personnel in the clerk's office despite his request. As a member of the executive council, I would prefer if there's to be any discussion of a charter executive position and the workings of their office is to be done at a time when the elected official can be in attendance. The council's role is not to be a mediator or a sounding board for other county offices, branches, or departments that want to complain about an executive office. Your role is to set policy directions of areas under the council's purview, raise necessary revenue, and properly fund the mandated duties of the county and the separately elected office. If any councilor has questions about the internal operations of an elected office, I invite you to contact the appropriate county executive to address your concerns. A discussion of the magnitude of an executive office should be carried out by the Charter Review Commission that will be elected later this year. I request that you amend the agenda and remove the agenda item 5.1, Clark County Clerk, and work through the appropriate channels, keeping in mind the roles the voters of Clark County have given each of us through the county charter. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tanya Anger. Regarding the trust lands visit on the agenda, thank you for taking action toward a public forum with DNR to address joint management of the county's oldest forests, which are invaluable towards reaching state mandated carbon emissions reductions goals. Council members have stated that you want to hear from all perspectives on this issue in order to make informed decisions. I hope in achieving that objective that you're planning on inviting subject matter experts who are knowledgeable on the science of how deforestation affects carbon emissions, biodiversity, hydrology and watersheds, salmon, and local climate. If you're only planning on talking to timber industry experts, then I hope you'll find out more about how they plan to keep industry going in our county when all our natural forests are cut down. I would like to request that the public has access to submitting questions to be asked of these experts at this meeting, as well as a recording of all the questions and answers discovered between the council, industry, and experts. I want to remind you that specifically these oldest natural forests, such as the Dabbler, Turnover, and more, are critical for the county now, and we cannot wait until 2100 for the DNR to finally achieve their minimum oldest forest ratio. That is simply too late, and the science fully supports that. I was just told by the DNR sales manager that the turnover is currently paused as it meets the Up the Grove's pause criteria of containing maturation to age stands. They are still doing environmental review though, and will likely just change the sale boundary. I will remind you that the Dabbler, which was sold and cut even after you requested a pause, contained maturation to age stand. In other words, it was structurally complex, natural forest holding the most ecological value of any other type of forest outside old growth. What this demonstrates is that the policy that you trust the DNR in administering is fickle and subject to change. This is exactly why I am requesting that the county enact a county forestry advisory committee that consists of stakeholders to provide oversight and direction to council on achieving objectives that benefit the county first and to monitor policy changes. This is not simply an issue of timber versus conservationists. This is one of prudent oversight and responsible stewardship. The area where Dabbler and Turnover is in the northeast of the county and the Souchon area is some of the last wild forest areas that the county has left. This area should not be open to timber or clear cutting, full stop. Global scientists are warning government leaders everywhere that we are facing multiple planetary tipping points. I implore you to heed these warnings and the responsibility and see the value in these forest lands for the sake of your legacy and the legacy of the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Neva Halley? I am not much of a speaker, but I feel that the county clerk, county clerk is a elected position, and you are in violation of your rights to try to change that.
Thank you.
Randy Knott?
My apologies, I thought it was just a sign-in, no comment today.
Okay, thank you.
Liz Klein?
Good afternoon, councilors and fellow citizens of Clark County. I'm Liz Klein from Camas, Washington. I stand before you today to address Agenda 5.1 concerning County Clerk's Office and to voice my firm opposition to the proposal to convert County Clerk from an elected position to an appointed one under the county manager's control. This change threatens the democratic foundation of our county and diminishes the voice of every citizen who calls Clark County home. The county clerk is a position of trust elected by the people to serve the people. Like our 5 county councilors, sheriff, assessor, auditor, and prosecutor, the county clerk is accountable directly to the voters. This accountability ensures that the clerk's office operates with transparency, integrity, and responsiveness to the need of our community. If this position is converted to an appointed position through the charter amendment, we risk severing that direct connection, placing the clerk under the influence of a single office rather than the will of the people. Our county charter is a reflection of our democratic values. Each change that erodes the electorate's power, each step that shifts authority from the elected officials to appointed ones, chips away at the representation we hold dear. The citizens of Clark County deserve to have their voices heard through the ballot box, not silenced through administrative restructuring. If the county manager takes control of the clerk's office, we lose an independent voice, an advocate for transparent recording for the Superior Court, management of the court documents, and the staff. I ask you to consider the broader implications of this proposal. When we allow elected positions to be absorbed into appointed ones, we can concentrate power into fewer hands. Doing so risks creating a system where decisions are made behind closed doors, far from public scrutiny. Our sheriff, assessor, auditor, and prosecutor remain elected elected because we trust the people to choose those who represent their interests. The county clerk should be no different. Who and what is really behind this proposal? How could it ever benefit the citizens of our county? Why now, and why rush this change through the same election cycle as the new charter commissions to be elected? Let us protect the democratic principles that define Clark County. A partial definition of democratic is a system of government where power is held by the people and exercised through their elected representatives. I urge the council to reject this proposal and preserve the county clerk as an elected position. Let's ensure our voices, yours, mine, every citizen's continue to shape the future of our county. Let's uphold the integrity of our elections and the independence of our public offices. Thank you for your time and for listening to the concerns of your constituents. Let's keep power where it belongs, with the people.
Thank you.
Rob Anderson.
Greetings. Good afternoon, Clark County Council, fellow citizens, judges. Honored to be here. I pose this idea of the possible charter amendment to make the county clerk an unelected position. This extreme response is a judicial executive dispute, is like trying to kill a fly with a sledgehammer, undermining the democratic foundation of our county. Thomas Jefferson wrote, "I know no safe depository of the ultimate powers of the society but the people themselves. And if we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their control with a wholesome discretion, the remedy is not to take it from them, but to inform their discretion by education." Our right to elect the county clerk ensures accountability in managing court records and upholding judicial transparency. The U.S. Supreme Court in Powell v. McCormick in 1969 affirmed that the people's right to choose their officials is fundamental, striking down an attempt to exclude a duly elected representative. Appointing the clerk would strip voters of the power, making an unaccountable office. The Washington State Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 declares all political power is inherent in the people. An elected clerk maintains impartiality, free from judicial or executive control. This amendment, driven by a branch dispute, overreaches. The Supreme Court in Bond v. United States 2011 emphasized the separation of powers limits government overreach to protect liberty, changing the clerk's status in a disproportionate solution that weakens checks and balances. James Madison called an independent judiciary an impenetrable bulwark of liberty. An elected clerk ensures this independence, serving the public, no other branches. This sledgehammer approach threatens our democracy. I urge the council to reject this effort to preserve the people's right to elect the county clerk. Resolve disputes through dialogue and education, not by silencing the people's voice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy Grant.
Good afternoon. I have an issue with my voice. I'm just going to make this very short. I'm in agreement with Liz Klein and Rob Anderson, so I would respectfully ask that you reject what you're trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alicia Topper.
Thank you, councilors. For the record, Alicia Topper. I'm the elected Clark County Treasurer and a member of the executive branch. Today, I was surprised to see this agenda item just titled County Clerk without any other information until yesterday around 5 p.m. when the presentation was posted. I'm not going to make a statement about the concerns of the courts or the office of the clerk, but just voice my opinion about process, transparency, and public debate. We have a Charter Review Commission and individuals running for that elected office to take place next year. To me, that is the appropriate forum and opportunity for all members of the public, including the courts, to voice their concerns about that office and to make a decision and send that to the voters for approval or denial. So I ask you to not take action today on this item and to refer it to the County Charter Review Commission, who will be appointed next year for this exact purpose. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Carmen DeLeon,
Hello, my name is Carmen DeLeon. My friends call me Mello. I'm talking into the reference of the minutes of the June 25th, what is it, Department of Health. And we were talking about how lack of sleep destroys the brain and stuff like that, you know? And I was interrupted because I asked to be respected and not interrupted. And I hope you would appreciate that and not trigger me. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about Wynn, because she talked about how all of this Roundup and stuff we're giving babies in the air and the atmosphere is destroying their brains. We talked about that on the 25th of June. And I was accused of being obsessed with some person who I'm not going to name. And just so you know, the definition of a woman obsessed with a man, the man has to be handsome. But when you got a Bowser, there's nothing to be upset about, you know, or obsessed. And maybe they're projecting onto me how they felt about themselves, because I'm not obsessing. I am pointing out flaws in this system that I've even seen today.
The minutes, please.
That
speak
is
to
on the minutes, because I was interrupted and I was laughed at
deliberating.
3 times and told, bye, Carmen, bye, Carmen, bye, Carmen, like a little 5-year-old by somebody up there I'm not supposed to name. You want me to not name them? I won't name them, okay? Because it's on video. Bye, Carmen. Oh, you're laughing again? So funny to trigger somebody on PTSD, huh? You like to provoke
point of
the
order.
people that
What-
are talking, and you're interrupting me again,
Chair.
and you're laughing at me again, and you need to shut your mouth. It's my 3 minutes, not yours. Shut your mouth.
Chair.
Okay,
Chair.
okay, I've acknowledged you. Carmen, you're going off the minutes. Talk about the Department of Health then.
How certain people come up here sleepy all the time.
Okay, that wasn't on the Department of Health.
Okay, then we'll talk about something else. When I came back at 1 o'clock, I was made fun of. Okay, fine. Okay, then we'll talk about whatever they're talking about. Just because I like him, obviously not the cue ball. So anyways, why do we need another charter when this one ain't working? 60% of people don't want light rail, but you guys don't care. You guys want to push it anyways. You guys have the needs of the city of Vancouver filled with junkies and people dying every day. Does that make you happy? Are you laughing because they're dying every day on the streets in Vancouver? On 4th Plane? Awesome, dude. Awesome. More death on the streets, huh? Don't prosecute the drug dealers. Let them all go free. Why do we need a charter review when you ain't working right in the first place?
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else?
Laugh some more.
Oh, there's nobody else signed up unless somebody raises their hand in the
No.
hearing room. We do have some people online.
Back to Mexico.
Okay, is there somebody online?
Stay there. You shouldn't be there.
Caller, we're going to unmute you on our end. Please go ahead and do so on your end and state your name for the record.
Oh, Wendy Cleveland, Sierra Club. Can you hear me all right with the glitches with what's going on?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
That was something to follow. I'm also, just to let you know, I will be emailing you individually each to follow up on this comment. So I am also referencing the minutes of June 25th. In those minutes, you approved the minutes of June 18th, which has 7.1 was wetland and habitat review, also 7.2 stormwater capital plan. There's an urgent situation that's come to my attention. I'm asking council to discuss giving staff direction to turn the water in the neighborhood medians and on the side of the streets on unincorporated county land, effective immediately. Trees and pollinator essential plants are dying. This can't wait. I was starting to ask county staff, I asked neighbors what's going on. Why are all these trees dying? There's no water. There are sprinkler systems there, but they are not. They got turned off last year apparently, and it's just now getting hot enough to create this crisis. You can actually see a clear line on the roadside, 63rd, Northeast 63rd near my house is an example where it turns into Vancouver City property because those trees are alive and the ones prior to that are dead. So I am concerned that we need to get on this quickly. So I don't know what that takes, but I do think it takes an act of council to try to direct staff to change that, whether it's Public Works or whatever else. I'm not sure how the decision was made to turn off the water. But I think it's time to act expeditiously to fix this oversight. It's your time, and you are welcome for my time. Good luck with the rest of the comments. Thanks.
Thank you.
And we have a caller online. Caller, you'll be asked to unmute yourself. Please state your name for the record and go ahead with your comments.
Good afternoon, Kimberly Goheen Elbin.
Good grief.
Well, so here's the deal. The people are standing up. They're telling you what to do with their business. And you, as an elected official, are to comply to the will of the people. So I'm assuming that 5.1 will be put off. I've been really busy here and stuff with my own local government here in La Center, but they're doing the same thing. They're not transparent to the public, such as this place here, and they would rather not us be there. I had an issue this morning trying to get on to the workshop, and of course, I print out my weekly, agendas here, and so I had a bad one, tried about 7 times, finally got a hold of somebody at Clark County. I couldn't get a hold of Rebecca, she's busy this morning at 9 o'clock when I was having issues, and so did get a final access code number, but a little bit too late for some of those people that are probably wanting to speak up. So I find that very troublesome, and it's not the first time. I want to make sure that you know that. Since you are there doing our business, we still do have a problem with Fuentes and wanting to take our Pledge of Allegiance and prayers away. Want to make sure of that. Law
Okay,
and
that is
justice
not on
is
the
Law and
agenda.
Justice
If
is
you keep your comments
4.4,
to the
and you don't need to
agenda.
blabber on. I know what that was. I'm going to 4.4 Law and Justice. That my main concern today and has been is that my son, Cleve Goheen Rengo, will be in court tomorrow at 9 o'clock, and we need supporters there in our system for this because it is I won't say corrupt, but it is a problematic system that we have here. Over 15,000 active cases. I know that every day, 90-day speedy trials are violated because of the backlog. We need more support for the public defense office that does use our taxpayer dollars, but as in my son's case, he has inadequate counsel. He's fought this spent almost 9 months in jail for this, and it's a crime. It's a violation, but they know that the poor that God takes care of can't, go hire a proper constitutional attorney. So we got a mess there. I think the people for Trust and Lands here need to speak up to Trust and Lands because they are in control over the Fort Vancouver. Next year is America's 250th anniversary, and we want fireworks there at Clark County. That way we don't have to, pollute the other lands here with fireworks. It can be put there as a historical event, and we're going to try to fight to get those back as patriots do need to get active now for next year. So I want to remind the public that the
time is
Clark
up.
County manager is.
Thank you.
Looks like we have one more caller online. You're going to be asked to unmute yourself. Please state your name for the record and go ahead with your comments.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. This is Margaret Tweet in Clark County. I'm also concerned about the new business added at 4:30 p.m. yesterday. That's not even 24-hour notice. And 5.1 lists the topic as Clark County Clerk, but it's really a court clerk position. So even the titling is odd. And then when you go to the document presented by Judge Vanderwood today, added in haste, like I say, without even 24-hour notice to the public, changing an elected position to an appointed one is alarming. This is especially concerning because we're going to have elections for charter review members coming in the fall. Somebody mentioned, Ms. Topper, I believe, mentioned she believed these would be appointments made. But actually, these are elections. The Charter Review Committee are elected, as is the clerk, not the Clark County clerk, but the clerk for the courts is an elected position. And I believe it should stay that way. But if anyone is going to review this and present it to the public, let it be the elected county charter review members. They're, on the cusp of being elected, so we'll all have a say in who will be representing us. And if they, in looking at it duly, not with less than 24-hour notice, if they, after looking at it, want to change this appointed position to this currently an elected position into an appointed position, they could put that forward to the resident. And I think it's very unlikely they would, because we citizens want more representation, not less. We see that the county manager is given more authority that used to be with the elected county councilors. We're already seeing that trend. And here, changing an elected position to an appointed one is unheard of and not what the people want. It's not what, but let the people speak. First, through electing the county review members this fall, and then through a due process. They have open public meetings.
Thank you. Your time is up. 2 more people. Go ahead.
Carissa Hallstrom, please unmute yourself and go ahead with your comments.
Hi there, this is Carissa Hallstrom. I've been compelled to speak just now. I'll keep it short. I just wanted to say I'm extremely disgusted that Carmen De Leon continues to be offered 3 minutes at every meeting after repeatedly making clear racist, offensive remarks to Councilor Fuentes, as well as insulting his physical appearance. I don't know why Carmen was even allowed to finish just now, as she continues to break the rules. I'm usually very much on the side of not restricting public comment on democratic principle, but Carmen has gone too far in her abuse of public comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chad King. Chris King. Chris King, please unmute yourself and go ahead with your comments.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. This is Chris King, longtime Clark County resident. I'd like to thank the council for the opportunity to speak today. I reflect the sentiment of Margaret Tweet, Liz Klein, and Rob Anderson, who spoke previously. This agenda item in regard to the county clerk and a request for a charter amendment seems like an ambush. There's a charter review coming up, has been reflected by many people speaking before me. And I would love to understand why the council feels that they need to change the rules before the review commission can be formed by the elected people here in Clark County and go through the proper process for amendment recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on with old business, 4.1 minutes of the June 25th, 2025 meeting. Are there any changes or revisions to the minutes?
Chair,
Yes.
I have a couple changes to recommend just for clarity purposes. And that would be on page 1, at the bottom where it says there was robust discussion and council concluded unanimously to allow the timeline. I would recommend that we change it for clarity purposes to there was robust discussion and council concluded unanimously to allow the updated timeline requested by the selected contractor.
That sounds good. Any objections to that revision?
Okay.
And go ahead with your second one.
And then second change would be on page 2 under council reports where it says Councilor Young gave update on and thanked the Friends of Clark County. I suggest it just be updated to Councilor Young gave an update on a panel he attended and thanked Friends of Clark County for hosting it.
Okay. Any objections to that change? Okay, with those changes, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve minutes from June 25th with the updated changes.
Thank you. Is there a second? I'll second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. 4.2 Trust Lands Tour. Who
Good
is-
afternoon,
Oh,
Council.
Jordan, thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, Council. For the record, Jordan Bogie, Senior Policy Analyst. Wanted to bring you an update of last week's conversation related to scheduling a tour of some of county trust lands and sites with DNR. I was able to talk with Chris a little bit and get a little bit of an opinion on the OPMA. And while the council would not be taking final action at a trust lands tour event, there would probably be action taken in the form of discussion about county policies and processes. And so if we did have 3 counselors at a meeting for this tour, it would need to be noticed and open to the public and things like that. In my conversations with all of you individually, as I have been looking at calendars with the DNR, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to have 3 counselors available on any of the dates proposed in any case. And so I am still going to be working with DNR to pin down those dates and finalize draft agendas for council. And so I will be bringing that back again later. But I just wanted to let council know that it will probably be logistically easier to have 2 or fewer counselors with multiple sessions. And we can certainly let folks know when those are happening and how they might be able to participate as we get those agendas put together. But still just a little bit of a TBD working through that process still. So happy to take any questions, but that's kind of the update for the moment. And hopefully I'll have a little bit firmer plans to bring you in the next week or 2 as I am able to chat more with DNR.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any questions or comments from the council? Okay. Moving on to 4.3 Bridge Shelter ILA.
Yes, Council. Again, for the record, Jordan Bogie. And so I am happy to announce that we have gotten a draft interlocal agreement put together with the City of Vancouver for county support from the mental health sales tax funds for capital costs related to construction of that facility per council's direction. And the City of Vancouver actually approved the interlocal agreement from their side at their meeting last Monday night. And this will be coming back to you next Tuesday for final consideration. But just to kind of recap, the City of Vancouver is in the process of planning and building this bridge shelter to expand local capacity to provide temporary emergency and interim housing for people experiencing unsheltered homelessness. And so in council time on February 19th, council provided direction to move forward with allocating $2.1 million of mental health sales tax funds that we collect per RCW 8214-460 to the Bridge Shelter Project. And funds were directed at subsequent council time to support capital facility construction costs following the passage of Senate Bill 5696 during the most recent legislative session that allowed for mental health sales tax funds to be used for new capital construction costs for facilities related to mental health and substance use treatment, and there will be substance use treatment happening at this bridge shelter. That actually goes into official effect on July 27th. And so that will be the point at which those costs would be allowable under capital support. And with this capital support, residents of Clark County living outside of Vancouver city limits will be provided access to up to 30%. So about a third of the beds will be held for county residents living outside the city limits of Vancouver. And following that 4-year period, residents from the outside of Vancouver city limits will be still able to access shelter space, but it will be on an as available basis. The interlocal agreement also spells out some outcomes and some reporting that the city of Vancouver will need to do to comply with our reporting requirements under the Mental Health Sales Tax Fund. And the shelter will also be utilizing the Homeless Management Information System, also called HMIS, that will provide real-time data on the folks that are entering the bridge shelter and accessing services, in addition to the annual reporting that is contemplated under the interlocal agreement. And so just to give you a sense of some of those outcomes, those are things that are going to be like number of people served, those served with reported mental health, opioid use, and substance use disorders, the percentage of people entering the shelter from unsheltered status. We'll be looking at the bed utilization rate, demographic information of the population served, the number of folks accessing treatment and the type of treatments that are being accessed, as well as services that are being accessed, including case management, behavioral health services, housing navigation, job training, employment support, peer supports, support getting documents, transportation, and other services that are aimed at either physical health, mental health, behavioral health, or stability and well-being. We'll also be getting reports on the percentage of successful exits into stable housing. And stable housing could include housing that is, permanent supportive housing or rapid rehousing, or moving into an apartment with family or friends, recovery or transitional housing, or permanent housing. We will also be monitoring the number and percentage of those returning to unsheltered homelessness directly from the bridge shelter, as well as looking at getting data on average length of stay. And so basically that interlocal agreement spells out the fact that the county will provide those $2.1 million to support capital construction costs, and then outlines those outcomes. Separately, the Opioid Abatement Council is working on a separate contract with the city of Vancouver that will allocate the other $2.85 million that council directed the OAC to contract also for capital support for that facility. And there will be similar outcomes, but they may be slightly different that they'll be tracking based on the requirements and the reporting needs for the opioid settlement funds. And so I just wanted to give you that kind of update and open it up for any questions you might have. This will come back for final council consideration next Tuesday.
Thank you, Jordan. Councilor Belcott?
Hey, Jordan, I cannot remember because we've talked about this so many times. Did this go through, because I know it was a legislation change, but did this go through an RFP process?
It did not go through an RFP process. So, so typically with the mental health sales tax, we do have the advisory board that tends to review and score external proposals. In this case, council did use its discretion, and I believe formal direction was given to move forward on this ILA at the February 19th council time meeting. And so basically council has directed allocation of these funds outside of what is our typical process given the need that the council had identified.
And is this just a one-time use?
That is correct. Yes, it's a one-time capital contribution, but reporting requirements will go through the projected lifetime of the shelter, which the city is currently anticipating to be 10 years.
Okay. And can you tell me, since we mitigated the regular RFP process, which providers did not receive funding this year as a result that submitted RFP packages?
So no one has submitted an RFP package for this year. So basically in the 2025 process for funding to begin in 2026, because at the time that this was first discussed, as we were looking at the amount of funding available in the mental health sales tax fund, we realized that it would be very difficult to provide this funding to the bridge shelter and also do an external RFP process out in the community, as well as typically there's an internal request as well for funds. And so that would go to things like the courts, the jail to provide substance use services, and a number of other internal programs. And so, at the time, the other piece of the council direction that was provided was to move forward with the interlocal agreement contributing these funds, and then to refrain in 2025 from doing an RFP process. So there are certainly providers who would have applied, who did not, because we didn't open that opportunity up this year. Typically, that RFP process begins in June, with applications due in August that are reviewed in September and early October.
Okay, so all of those funds were applied to this capital project for City of Vancouver rather than providers that had applied for RFPs in the past.
Yeah, that's correct. So this year we didn't have an RFP process,
All right,
an external
thank you.
RFP process.
Thanks.
Thank you. Other comments? Go ahead, Counselor.
Sure. Just wanted to give a shout out, Jordan, for all the work that you and lots of other members of staff have put into this process. And I appreciate that it's now coming to a realization and that building will be happening in the near, not so near future, whatever that timeline is, but appreciate all the work that went into it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Counselor.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the last conversation that Councilor Young and I are on the committee with the sales tax revenue grants, and we did consider RF proposals internal. So we did spread out the remaining funds in the balance to really important projects, including the jail and other things. So just wanted you to know.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Jared, just wanted to add that according to Jamie Spinelli, I forgot her official title at the city, but works with the HEART team. The facility is expected to be completed by summer of next year. So a little bit, about a year from now is when we're expected to. And I'm excited about this. I think that historically, the county council has not been willing to collaborate and work with the city of Vancouver and other jurisdictions across the county to support our homeless population. So this is historic, and I'm excited that we were able to do that.
I would just add that the county has done a good deal of collaboration throughout the county on the homeless issue. So just a little disagreement there.
At this level, I hardly believe it.
Jordan, I have a question on the number of beds. I think the number of beds that this bridge shelter could provide varied, and I wondered where that stood.
It has varied. It has varied quite a bit as they have gone through the design and construction process. My understanding is that at present they are planning on a 120-bed facility.
That's great. Thank you. Councillor Belcott, back to you.
I just want to address the last comment by Councillor Fuentes, and to reiterate what you mentioned, Chair. We have done a lot of collaboration with the city and had numerous conversations, and they did apply for the RFP process before the legislation was approved to change the capital process last year. So that's not true.
Okay, so I think enough about that. Thank you, Jordan. Anything else on that ILA at this point?
That's all I've got for you today, and it'll be coming back, as I said, next Tuesday at the regular council meeting.
Great, thank you. Okay, then let's move on to 4.4, Law and Justice, and we have a presentation. I believe the county manager will lead that.
Yes, and I'll start out just so that
If I could just, I would like to make a comment here because there's a lot of information here. And as we're listening to this, if you can advise us on what your expectation is as far as input, advice, what do you need from the council today?
Yes, thank you. And it is outlined on the last two slides, but just to keep in your mind or keep thinking about this during this presentation, the recommendation is to move forward with a law and justice master plan, a detailed market analysis, and a public participation plan. We do have funding for that. That would include all of the components, including the sheriff's office, the jail, and other law and justice partners. Have that be completed by the second quarter of 2026 in order to make future ballot measure. Secondly, I will be recommending that the council consider taking the new criminal justice tax. You will not be taking action on that today. It's my understanding the sheriff is currently reviewing eligibility because that new funding source requires eligibility with the grant program in order for council to take the tax. And there's also a 90-day waiting period from the governor's sign. So that could be sometime later this month. And if council approves that at that point, then we can start bringing in some revenue. It is a 2-month lag from when we start because it goes up to the state and then it comes back to the county after that. And then with that funding also, we can start receiving that funding. I would recommend developing a framework to how to apply funding for FTE and or programs within our law and justice system. This again can include sheriff's office deputies, jail staff. We don't see any supplanting language in there. So we, as we're working through that, we can certainly use that to help offset our deficit in the short term. And then finally, just an update for council to continue at my level with the cities to discuss partnerships for funding, again, for capital and also cost recovery for our programs. So next slide, please. So I wanted to just give a little bit of a baseline, and I'll do this quickly because there's a lot of this information council has seen before. Just as a reminder who our law and justice partners are. It's our sheriff's office, jail, prosecuting attorney, public defense, the clerk's office, superior court, juvenile, and district court. The ones with asterisks are mandated by law, and they are county-wide regional services. So we provide those services to all of our jurisdictions in the county. These next few slides are just details from our annual budget presentation from December of last year. So no, none of the numbers have been updated, but just wanted to, again, just remind council and the public where we're at. This is just showing the general fund operating structural deficit, which simply means our expenses are exceeding the revenues that we're bringing in. And this is the general fund specifically. The next slide just shows for general fund, the allocation of our expenses that was based on this year's budget. Those identified in red are the law and justice partners. So as you can see on here, it's showing about 68% that goes to law and justice now from the general fund. This does not include some indirect allocations for IT, human resources, budget, and other central support departments that support the law and justice. So that would bring it up to about 70%. The next slide simply shares the same thing, just in a different format in a graph showing, out of the allocated $208 million general fund, you can see the first two lines, sheriff's office and jail services, they do take the bulk of their general fund for law and justice now. Just wanted to add in the public safety sales tax 6-year forecast. Again, this is from the December annual budget meeting. This was voted by the public in August, I believe, in 2022. So we have been receiving those revenues. These revenues are split between the county and the city. The county gets 60%, the city gets 40%. So you can see that projected revenues is 7.8, increasing to 9.6. All of these funds, so this was a new fund, all of these funds are paying for law and justice services now. We've heard, well, probably since I've been here, about some concerns that council doesn't support law and justice. And what does that support look like? It means funding. So I wanted to allocate or to show the council and the public over the last 3 years what council has done and the policy decisions that you've made And you can see for the 3-year total, combining both operating and capital, council has allocated over 116 million to support law and justice. This is all funds. So this is general fund, public safety sales tax, mental health sales tax, and others that we get funding in there. And you can see on that total for 3 years, it's about 73 million in operating and about 43 million in capital. This does include one-time funding as well, like through ARPA and others. And these are just a menu of examples on which that funding paid for. So with the public safety sales tax, the number one policy driven decision that council made to get that out is to get body cameras for our sheriff deputies and for their vehicles. This also other law and justice funding for staffing for the jail and for the sheriff's office, hiring bonuses, safety gear, project positions in our other law and justice departments, our case management system, jail reentry, our liability insurance did increase as well, and then our jail work center remodel and our jail expansion. So these are just a sample. This is not all inclusive. Just wanted to put a little menu of items and examples up there for you to see. So capital priorities, these are in order based on council's policy direction over the years. The first one was the family law annex. We were notified before COVID that our lease was going to expire. So we had to find a spot for our courts that are housed in the family law annex. That also triggered the space planning for our courts to make sure that we're being efficient. The jail remodel and expansion, I know we've had lots of conversations about this, about how it hasn't been updated since the 80s, since it was built. We don't have enough beds. I'm happy to share with the Jail Work Center and the work that our team's doing. We're hoping that that's going to be open in mid-August. That will add another 60 beds. And HPOD within the jail is also going to add between 26 and 28 beds for therapeutic housing. Clean Building Initiative. This is one of those nice things that the state can do to us sometimes, which they provide an unfunded mandate. And this is going to cost us a few $1 million. So we are looking at revenue sources right now and also timing to see what we need to do and when we need to do that by. Our medical examiner's office, this used to be a bar. It was not built for the services that we are mandated to provide. So we are continually looking at like funeral homes or other options on how can we make sure that we're meeting our regulatory requirements and have the adequate space to move forward. The main facility study, I would say the prior commission, I would say that the county commissioners, there wasn't a lot of approval on capital projects. And since COVID, the council has supported in that we have developed a capital budget. We're actually working on a 6-year capital plan. And this main study was a study done of a lot of our facilities, not all of them. So we do look at them. We look at fire life safety. We do prioritize. This comes back to council every year. And hopefully when we get that 6-year plan, it'll be like your TIP and others that you see that we'll bring back. And then, and then the last one on there is the impacts to the jail remodel expansion. More specifically, our sheriff's department is on the ground floor of our jail. So best case scenario, if everything aligned, all the funding, they would have to relocate in 3 to 4 years in order to accommodate a jail renovation. Some of our operating priorities, again, our general fund structural deficit, we want to make sure anything that we add that supports all of our systems, including law and justice, is sustainable, because otherwise, we're not giving them the tools that they need to create the impact in the community that they're looking for. Public safety. We've heard that. We've been having a lot of discussion on this. There's been a lot of work on it. There's a little bit more work we need to do to make sure that this is successful. Mandated services, treasurer's office, assessor, other county-wide services, public health, community services, and then level service. What is the acceptable level of service? And some of that is going to be policy decisions if we need to look at allocating other funds as well. I'm not going to go into detail on the next slide. This is just a summary of the information that the Law and Justice Partners have presented to council. If there was an additional VPD officers and sheriff deputies, what that impact would be. The one thing I do want to say is all of this is still being evaluated, including with the city, because we have the new tax revenue that's available and just seeing what can we do now and then how can we clearly assess that as well moving forward to make sure that we're sustainable even with the impacts. This one is just the jail capacity. Again, this was shared with council before for the jail capital projects. It would be about 473 million, which would be about $28 million annual bond payments. I will say we are looking at options on how could we get that annual bond payment in the most effective way, both with our local jurisdictions and partners with other jurisdictions in our community. And then the jail staffing in order to staff the new jail is about $36.8 million. And I'll just note and reiterate, it's really important to make sure that we have the staffing secure before the facility. We've seen it happen a couple of times where, you know, we get the beautiful facility, not necessarily county, but a jurisdiction will get a beautiful facility, but they don't have the cost to operate it. So we want to make sure that we actually can do that.
I have a quick question. Would that be new for the additional staff or the total? Just
Additional.
the additional. Thank you.
Funding options, just for council and the public, the funding options title is a link. That is a link to the report that our financial advisors assisted with when they presented. The only ones I'm going to call out a little bit here is, so these are just funding options. So bond, public safety, sales tax, we do have an additional 2/10 that we can go out for a vote. The levy, the lift, emergency communication, sale and use tax. If the council were to put that on a ballot measure, that would bring in about $2.5 million to the county. That money actually goes to CRESA, but it reduces our payment to CRESA. And then that last one is the criminal justice sales tax. Again, this is the new tax that just passed that has a grant portion to it that I believe it pays for 75% of new hires in the sheriff's office. And then the other one is the sales tax portion that council can make that decision, does not require a vote. And that amount is not split with the cities as well. So these are the last two slides on the recommendations. So I know Amber and Dave met with a very credible and well-respected marketing analysis firm in our area that has worked with many jurisdictions on doing a market analysis to ensure that whatever goes to the public, that they understand it, it's communicated in the right way, and that it's supported. Based on their initial discussions, it is showing based on the last year and a half, that the current market does not look like it would have enough support for voter-approved financing. The recommendation is to continue to proceed with the jail work center and HPOD expansion. So at least we can get some more capacity in our jail to help support the law enforcement. And then again, continue to collaborate with the cities, develop that countywide law and justice master plan, the market analysis, public participation plan. Again, we have that funding and, you know, continue to evaluate the cost, make sure we're getting paid for the services that we're providing to cities, and evaluate other revenue options. The recommendation is to have this market analysis, detailed analysis done by the second quarter of 2026 for council to determine a future ballot measure. And then the last slide, again, is recommending implementing that criminal justice tax when we are eligible to do so. Apply that tax to the eligible law and justice services that are identified in the 2015 bill and develop that framework in which council does allocate budget and FTE as part of your policy direction, and develop a framework on when to add positions and or programs, ensuring again that it's efficient and sustainable. And we can work through that process, hopefully, if council were to adopt that tax and then also apply some of that to our general fund structural deficit so we can actually see those impacts to make sure it's sustainable. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councilor Little.
Thank you for that complete report. I just curious about numbers on the criminal justice sales tax. If 75% can go to new hires at the sheriff's office, what would be the projected estimate of how much that would bring in for the sheriff's department?
It depends on how many positions are requested in that grant process and how many would be awarded. So it'd be 75% of the cost of that FTE.
I was just wondering how many total dollars would come in.
Are you talking about revenue?
Additional revenue, sorry.
Michelle, can you pull up the spreadsheet? I thought you were talking about the expense side. So we'll show
With that chart that you showed us.
No, so here's this is just like a blanket 6-year forecast for that. So you can see in 2026, if we had a full year, the revenue being brought in, not for the grant program, this is for the criminal justice sales tax, would be about 14.5 million. And then it would increase by that 4.2% year over year.
Thank you.
And there's additional funding for the grant piece.
Other questions or comments? I was wondering about our eligibility for, with there certain criteria we have to meet for that grant. Are we meeting that, or
I know
are we
the-
getting there?
The sheriff is evaluating that as we speak. And so you can come on. Yeah.
Welcome, Sheriff.
Is it on? All right. Good afternoon, Council. Real quickly, so we have been evaluating it since it was written and it passed. And I talked to Amber last week. 99.9% sure we're eligible. Some of the language in there is put where there's supposed to be some training that the Criminal Justice Training Center is going to put out later this year. So the question is, if they haven't put out that requirement yet, are we still eligible? So we believe we are, but I would want county legal to look at it before you guys took action on it. So that's kind of where we're at. We're 99.9% sure, but I want to make sure we're final. Being eligible and applying for the grant are two different things as well. So, and the grant money and the sales and the criminal justice tax are two kind of separate funds as well. So do you have any questions on that? I think in the next week or so, we'll be able to probably wrap that eligibility question up.
Hey, thank you for that.
Thank you.
And so it sounds like you're just looking for a broad direction on what to pursue, and then we'll get some of those specific numbers and what it will all pay for.
I
going
would,
forward.
yes, and I'm looking for support for moving forward with the market analysis, public participation plan, and that, and to bring that back first quarter, because if council wanted to put something on this November ballot, we have to have that direction as well, because the timing, we have to have everything to the auditor's office by, I believe, the 5th. And so I don't want to miss that timeline in case council was not supportive of the recommendations today. So I'm not recommending anything for the November ballot, but moving forward with the other plan.
Okay, council, how do you feel about those things?
Sure. I agree with recommendation. I think timing is critical. I think we have our work to do to really show the community the need that presently exists, and thereby earning support eventually for any measure that we put forward. So I think taking steps in due time is prudent in this situation.
Other thoughts? Go ahead, Counselor.
Yeah, I support the recommendations. I'm curious what ballots we would be eligible for next year. Is it only the November ballot, or could it be any of the ballots?
It depends on which item goes out there. I believe public safety sales tax is a primary or general election. A 1-year levy could be early next year, but yeah, but the criminal justice one, again, no vote is needed for that.
Counselor Little, just to add to that, on that link that Kathleen has to our financial advisor, that's on every section. They listed out which election that can go for. So if you want to refer to that as well, that's listed in that document.
Okay, I was just wondering if we had a final report on recommendations in Q2 of next year, if we'd be missing out on taking action on a particular ballot.
The only one you'd be missing is this November. I mean, there is, because you can't put public safety on the February ballot. And I will share, I did talk to the city of Vancouver yesterday, and I am hoping to meet with the other cities. But they even, I mean, they're kind of finalizing like their next steps as well, but they also wanted to share, they recognize the jail is like the hub to our system. If we don't have space for people, law enforcement doesn't have anybody to bring them to. We don't, we need that system to work. And so that is a shared vision and message, I would say, with our key partners. And I'm hopeful that even as we look at this, public participation plan and analysis and everything, that we maybe could incorporate the cities as well, because I think our community, they don't see lines when it comes to, or jurisdictions when it comes to public safety. And I would hope that all of our cities and partners would be on the same page and standing side by side to support this.
Go ahead.
Sure. I just want to add a caveat. If the Vancouver City Council decides to put something on the ballot, say next week, I'd like to have it come back to us to consider whether we can join with them or make a decision on that.
So they're still having discussions. If they do anything, I think it's going to be very minimal. And because they also recognize, we had a lot of great work done in the art with the courts and with the clerk, everybody doing that. But the one thing that we always heard is nobody's done this in the state. And so I think the city recognizes that as well. And so if it's minimal, I think they're going to maximize the resources that they have, the tools that they have. And if they go out, it might be for something minimal, but it will not be all at once. And so it'll allow us to actually see any impact that it would have to our system.
Kathleen, I'm going to add a little bit to that. So there's been really great work done with district court and the auditor's office in the city of Vancouver to tweak the formula so that when we do have an officer added, district court is often impacted most by the city of Vancouver. That will adjust. So there has been some really great work done in the formula. So I think we can see some change and gain to the general fund with impacts that we currently have. And then if we do have 5 to 7 officers added a year with a minimal plan, then I think we'll see some cost recovery in that. It doesn't affect the felony side of things, but the district court side will see some cost recovery.
Councilor Belcott.
I was wondering what is the price of the market analysis that's being conducted?
I don't know, but I do know we have some savings from the jail project that will be enough to cover it. But I don't know if Amber, if you got any.
Councilor Belka, I don't know the exact cost. We've talked to a couple market analysis that Washington County uses when they go out for their public safety measures. So we need to see if they're on the list for the state of Washington. They have done some work over on this side. And then of course that would come back to council with the price tag for consideration. But as we talked about the jail project with the remodel and expansion with our group with KMB, we were always talking about doing some sort of market analysis. This would just expand it past what just the jail itself to all the law and justice in the community. Okay, thanks, Amber.
Thank you. I think I'm supportive generally of all of this, and then we'll wait for more of the details. I think that the criminal justice sales tax has really changed the narrative for a lot of the jurisdictions, and they're all going to be looking at that. And as much as I would have liked to seen something on the November ballot, I think we want to be positioned in a way that we can be successful. And I know the sheriff, I give him credit for all the outreach that he's been doing talking about public safety. So I think that's resonated with the community in a positive way. Go ahead.
I was wanted to ask clarification on Councillor Little's request to bring this topic back, dependent on the city of Vancouver's discussion next week. Does the council want that, or?
I think that Law and Justice has done some tremendous work this year. And there was a thought, I think, early on that there could be some collaborative thing with the city of Vancouver. We're talking to each other. That's significant, but I don't think we figured out a single vehicle that would accommodate both the county and the city's requests. So I think I don't feel a need to have that come back.
Sure. I would just say that, this has been a discussion that to me has been very encouraging. I feel like we have really recognized that this is a county-wide issue and not specific to any one jurisdiction. And from the conversations that I've heard, I feel that there is great collaboration taking place. And so I feel like the city of Vancouver is on board. They recognize the need, the importance of the jail, and I don't believe that they would do anything that would risk the completion of something that's so critical for the entire county. So I'm happy if you want to share that information with us. I don't think we really need to come back and talk about it.
Yeah, I agree. Just so that we're aware of what happened and what the decision was so that we could act on it if we needed to. Thanks.
Then I will be asking counselors to bring that up. I will let you know. It'll be on their discussion and their public meeting. I know it's being recommended, but I want to be respectful of their process and their opportunity to deliberate. But I will not be putting it on an agenda based on the feedback I'm getting. But if a counselor wanted, so Counselor Little, if you hear, once I tell you, if you want to consider it, then we need to act very quickly.
We will just get a heads up when.
That's what
we
I'm
know.
planning on doing, but
Yeah.
if any counselor wants to bring it back for a full discussion, you'll just need two folks to.
Have the power to do that. Go ahead.
Kathleen, do you know when they'll be making that decision?
I believe next Monday night
Next
is when
Monday.
they're going to get their final direction.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that report. Is there anything else related to law and justice in terms of funding mechanisms and needs?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's move on then to new business, 5.1, Clark County Clerk. And I'd just like to acknowledge that that is a very vague agenda item and difficult for people to understand what that could possibly mean. And that sometimes things get posted late. We try not to have that happen. Apologies for that. Information comes to us late in the game, and so we'll do better in getting information out so people have all the information they need and know what the issue really is related to that topic. But with that, and this came to, and the council time itself, we're not going to be making a decision today. This is to provide some direction to learn about issues. This was brought to the county council by Superior Court, and we're accommodating Superior Court in this discussion. And so that's why it's on the agenda, and that's what we're doing today. So with that, I believe Judge Vanderwood, are you coming forward? Thank you very much.
And Chair Marshall, if I could just also add to your introduction there and just reiterate, council's not making a decision today. The only decision if two counselors want to continue the discussion to next week. But the clerk is out of town. And so if council want to continue it, then he would be joining council time next Wednesday.
Right.
So.
And just to add a little additional, that on the one-on-one briefings that the council receives, we've heard from Judge Vanderwood, and we've also heard from Scott Weber. So this is to provide an open forum for some of those discussions that have occurred in some of those one-on-ones. So please, with all of that, please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, Council Chair and Council members. I am Judge Vanderwood. I'm presiding judge in Clark County Superior Court. As you know, Superior Court consists of 12 judges. There are 4 court commissioners as well. Many of those judicial officers have been here for part or all of this meeting and otherwise would want to be here if their schedules would allow them to do it. I have Miss Pam Hartman-Beyer with me, our court administrator. Chris Simmonsmeyer, our juvenile court administrator, is with us as well. So my role today is to briefly provide some added information and answer questions about what is this very important topic. This was a topic that was considered by the council last year in 2024, whether or not to move this forward to the November 24 ballot for consideration by the electorate. The decision was made by the council at that time that there would be more exploration of it, more information would be needed. And it's within that context that we have moved forward to try to provide that information to you and to answer any questions that you have. As far as your apology, Council Chair, for the timing of any materials, that's actually on me, has nothing to do with you or any of your staff or otherwise. I submitted the material yesterday and your staff timely and quickly posted it. So any responsibility for that late filing is only mine and no one else's. This is an important issue, as I've mentioned, but this is an issue that's not directly focused on our current clerk, Mr. Weber. It's not something that's focused specifically on what I've heard some of the comments being as far as a divide within the branch is concerned. It's an issue as far as what is the best method and approach for Superior Court operations for us in Clark County. This proposal that we are supporting is one that has been moved forward and is in place in other counties in Washington. There are multiple counties that have gone to this type of a process. Our court very much appreciates the hard work and effort of the clerk, of the clerk staff, everyone involved with the clerk's office. We're impacted every day by the work that they do, and it's challenging work that they do, and we see their work and effort, and we appreciate that. This proposal does nothing to diminish that effort and issues that we see as they carry on this work. So with that, let me briefly move forward with a couple slides that I have. First, it is the proposal that we have that the charter amendment move forward for the fall ballot. That charter amendment would change the clerk position in Clark County from an elected position to an appointed position. It is a proposal that would again go to the public's vote. So the public has the opportunity in the end to weigh in and be the ultimate decider as to whether or not this is adopted and moves forward. But it is a proposal that we think has a lot of benefit to it. You hear a lot from us, you hear a lot from the clerk's office, you hear a lot from other law and justice partners about limited resources. That's a reality. We appreciate the efforts the council has in the past and continues to make to solve those challenging issues. This process is one that we feel would help facilitate best use of those limited resources. It provides the court with an opportunity to balance what's happening throughout the judicial process, judicial officers, clerks, the responsibilities that are involved, and allocate appropriate resources accordingly to be making sure that timely decisions, changes in process and procedures are being made, technology and other advancements are being timely and properly utilized. The benefits we see are identified within that slide itself. This slide is just designed to identify that the court system as a whole, from our view, is really viewed by the public as a system as a whole. It's comprised of judicial officers every day doing their job with dedicated staff that are helping them. It has the clerk's office that's involved in maintaining the court record and helping and assisting the public. And when the public is involved and comes into the courthouse, which you see here, it's a combination of that work and effort of all of those individuals as they are accomplishing this very important work. Now, what is that important work? If we look at the next slide, it's just a brief rundown of some of the responsibilities that we have in Superior Court. The numbers are just to give you an idea about what cases come in these various types, how they've changed over the last years. The number of active cases is important to us because we have a state mandate and an approach from our court internally to try to timely process cases. The way we do that is to timely monitor when cases are filed, what dates things are resolved, when a case is terminated. That then keeps our active caseloads in place. I just point this out because it's one very important way in which the court operations and the court clerk overlap. Because maintaining those court records, properly identifying when cases should be closed, helps determine what the active caseload is. It helps us monitor and evaluate how effective is this work moving forward? How efficient is that happening? How is the public needs being met? And so it's a very important overlap between the clerk's office and the court. It's also part of a tension that exists in the system to make sure that cases are being properly and timely closed and what that looks like. So that's one example of some areas in which a combining of these processes would help increase efficiency and monitor the process as to what's happening. Now, next, just briefly as I finish up, I want to highlight and focus on the court clerk, those duties and responsibilities. As identified, the Washington Constitution, it doesn't define what the duties of the county clerk or clerk of Superior Court are. The duties of the Superior Court clerk, it's identified by statute and it's identified by court rules. And as we look at the next slide, it gives you an idea of what that looks like. The court rule here, General Rule 29F5, there's a comment that goes along with it. And it just points out initially that courts of limited jurisdiction. So that's what we're talking about, district court for us. That's a court of limited jurisdiction. They have the responsibility for administration of their clerk's office, as well as the supervision of the court clerks who work in the courtroom. In the superior courts, the clerk's office may be under the direction of a separate elected official. That's the system that we've had, or someone appointed by the local judges. That's the system we think should be implemented, or local legislative or executive authority. That also is an option to consider as far as a ballot consideration would be concerned. But the functionality of the courts is very interesting when you look at district court and superior court. And I'll talk briefly about that a little bit later. But district court here in Clark County and around the state, they have this, I guess what I'll use, this unified term of the court being responsible for court administration. It makes sense because the work overlaps and is directly related to the type of work they're doing. On the next slide, we see the statute that's applicable to the clerk's office role. I've highlighted just a couple of items there. The duties and responsibilities of the clerk, sub 9, and performance of his or her duties to conform to the direction of the court. It becomes important because that work of the Superior Court clerk, when they're doing the functions of the court's business, has that overlap directly between it. The clerk has some other functions not related to the clerk's office, frankly, to Superior Court, excuse me. I can't tell you what those are specifically offhand. I think the vast majority of the work that the court clerk is doing is focused on these duties of the Superior Court and what's going on with them. That's referenced by the next slide, which I took from the Superior Court's website, identifying that the county clerk serves and supports the Superior Court. That's the role, that's the responsibility. So if we look at the one quick example, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, but the document management system that we use here in Clark County, on-base system that our county clerk adopted and has moved forward with, as compared with the state option for document management system, the Odyssey system. That Odyssey system is used throughout the state of Washington for filing and tracking court documents, but in Clark County, we use OnBase to actually access and look at those records. How we use it as judicial officers, how practitioners looked at it. That's an important case study, we think, because it points out how functionality issues, cost issues, could be enhanced if the role of the court clerk were one that was not separate and apart from, but instead part of Superior Court. So if we look at the next study or next page, I just wanted to point out just quickly, this won't mean a lot to you or probably anyone. This is just kind of what I see when I look at the document management system. So it gives you an idea of how things look. It becomes challenging for a judicial officer when they take a look at a court file like this one that has 148 items in it, and then trying to identify which of these documents the officer needs to be looking at or reviewing in connection with court proceedings. This shows you, for instance, yesterday when I took a look at July 8th, there were these documents that had been filed on June 27th through June 30th. Fortunately, they were in the system, but the information takes a while to get completed because, again, this is a lot of work that the clerk's responsible for. The next page is also from the same file, but you'll note that there's limited information in this file, and this often happens. So if you look at the description, the only way I know which of these documents are there is by that description. But if I take a look here and I need to look at, okay, what have parties filed in relation to a motion to compel, which is related to these? I don't know. It says there's 2 replies, there's a response, there's an affidavit. I don't know which party those are from. I don't know what motions they're related to. It's a lot of additional time and effort for the officer to work through that. So these are just brief examples, again, how we view that the system could be more efficiently put together if there was an opportunity to actually use the Odyssey system. Finally, with Odyssey, the issue of cost that we've talked about. There is a cost associated with that program that not associated with Odyssey. The state does not charge for that. OnBase, used here in Clark County, there is a fee for that. So there is a cost to the county to pay for using that. That's important. The clerk, I believe, thinks that's fairly cost neutral because of payments of licenses. But I guess I just point out those licenses are being paid by Superior Court. They're being paid by District Court. So they're still being paid by the county. So it's not actually a cost neutral outcome. Plus for the practitioners, the cost and expenses for those that are involved with it as well. So I think that's very important to keep in mind how that plays out in connection with these issues. Hours of operation, I just put that in there to indicate, again, there's a lot of parts of the clerk's operation that overlaps with our work that isn't then up to us to have influence on directly. Finally, we're just requesting again that you place this as an amendment to consider on the fall ballot. We think it's an appropriate and important issue for the voters to consider. These are examples of how what we see as benefits are demonstrated. Our own district court clerk's office and the way they operate and how that's set up. Interestingly, the Washington appellate courts, federal courts, they're all set up to have administration within their own purview, not as a separate entity outside of it. And I think there's a reason and benefit for that. So any questions that you might have in relation to these issues, we'd certainly like to try to address.
Councilors, any questions?
Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Judge.
You bet.
You mentioned a couple times the benefits of potentially making this position an appointed position. And one of those is a couple of those efficiencies and cost savings. Currently, the county clerk's office annual budget for 2025 is allocated at $4.687 million, so $4.7 million. Approximately, how much do you think we'd be able to save if this was an appointed position?
That is a challenging question for me to answer because I don't have a lot of visibility on how the clerk utilizes those funds that are allocated to the clerk's office. I certainly, again, looking back at the district court process and how they allocate their resources, I think you can see that there are ways in which they have staffing benefits that become budget positive to limit cost in that respect, and their overall operation cost as well. I'm not sure if Pam has any other insights on that.
Can you hear me? Am I on? Okay. I think the only other direct cost that I could identify is a transition from document management system OnBase to Odyssey. I think that would be an immediate transition and costs. My understanding is that runs at $170,000 per year, but we are also paying those license fees. Superior Court pays $24,000 a year. I believe District Court pays $90,000. And our juvenile court pays almost $4,000, and that does not include the cost to the public.
So in addition to transitioning over to Odyssey, we'd save some money, but also not placing it on a ballot would save us money. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's certainly costs to have it on the ballot.
Thank you.
But a one-time cost as opposed to
Every
an
4
annual
years.
increasing cost.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions or direction? Go ahead, Counselor.
Chair, I don't have any questions. Thank you for coming today. Just a couple comments. One is I would like to clear up a couple things for the public. There was significant public comment, and I appreciate that. One is it is specified specifically in the charter that the council can place items on the ballot for voter consideration. And it's also in the charter that in order for us to do so, there has to be 4 positive votes, not just 3 like there typically is. So it's, to me, it's very clear that the charter considered this. You know, it was there. I heard some comments that it would be somewhat of an abuse of power for us to place this on the ballot. I view it exactly the opposite. Last year, we had the sheriff come before us and ask us to place an item on the ballot that eventually passed. And I was obliged to do that because I feel that the sheriff knows more about the sheriff department and its needs than I do. And I feel like I would be impeding his ability to do the job by not placing that item on the ballot. I will say, however, this is a bit different. We have one elected official asking us to place something on the ballot, and we have a different elected official asking us not to. So in this particular instance, I don't feel like it's our place at this point. I think it's more complicated and something I feel like the Charter Review Commission should flesh out. I think it's a worthy issue. I hear your argument on this, and I look at this, and I think it is something that we as voters certainly should consider, whether that would be better for our county in the long term or not. But I am, at this point, I think that it should go through the charter review process, let the public process take place in that. And I think this is a great stage to set that discussion. You know, these meetings can be reviewed by the commission and build on this.
Counselor Belcock?
I feel exactly the same way as far as the decision being made with the charter review. That's what they're there for. They're all in the process of campaigning for their positions. So I think this issue, amongst many others that I know that they are discussing, should be made by them. I just don't feel comfortable as an elected deciding who should not be elected. I just think that should purely go through the charter review. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Counselor Fuentes?
Chair, just to clarify, it's not up to us to determine whether or not this is an appointed position, right? It will go out to the voters. We don't make that decision. And what we make the decision is whether or not it becomes an amendment, right? And it goes out to voters. Now, I will agree with Counselor Belcock and Counselor Young that we are in the process of well, there's a process right now of Charter Review Commission candidates going through the process and wanting to get elected to look at our county's constitution, our county's charter, and make decisions on what makes sense for the community and makes sense for the council. So I'm also inclined to allow them to let them do that. I have my own opinions of what this position should be, but I think that the Charter Review should be responsible for that.
Thank you. I don't want to diminish really, because I know there's real frustration on both sides, and it's unfortunate that we didn't schedule this at a time when Scott Weber could have been here to present as well. But the question before us now is, do we want to move this forward really at all? And I'm inclined to agree that this should go to the Charter Review Commission for consideration. I would wonder if there's any kind of relief for either the clerk, and I think probably staffing would help on all sides, because I know it's a system that has been squeezed very hard, and there's efficiencies that have been built in response to that. But if there's anything that we can do or help facilitate in between now and whatever the Charter Review Commission might do, want to have that as an opening for everyone to come forward with any recommendations. And we did get a memo from our IT department, and I know they're going to be looking at those database systems. And so I think that there's a recommendation that we have a fresh, unbiased look at the database systems. So I think that's something that can perhaps help alleviate some of the issues that you're all experiencing. I don't claim any expertise in that myself, but just hearing from the comments, it doesn't sound as if there's interest in moving this discussion further at this time. And I think everyone can have an opportunity to weigh in once the Charter Review Commission is convened.
Chair,
Yes, please.
I think Counselor Little actually pushed his button first.
I'm very sorry. Please go ahead, Councilor Little.
Just want to chime in. I also agree that there may be efficiencies and cost savings, but I think it's a perfect issue to be considered by the Charter Review Commission because they are created for this purpose. So I would agree with the rest of the counselors.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is I think it's clear the direction is not to place this on the ballot. However, I think we ought to consider allowing the auditor to come next week and continue the conversation specifically for a public, or what did I say?
Oh, the clerk? You mean, not the auditor?
Not the auditor, sorry. Thank you.
He may have
But
something to
just
say about this.
allow him to, share some of his thoughts so that the community as well as the commission can hear from both sides in a public forum.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
All right. Thank you all for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your work. Yeah, it'll just be an informational next week from the clerk during council time. Let everyone know. Okay, so 5.2 under new business proclamation request. So I look to Jordan to inform us on that.
Good afternoon, Council. Again, for the record, Jordan Bogie, Senior Policy Analyst. We have received a request from the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra for the County Council to make a proclamation related to the Vancouver USA Arts and Music Festival, which is going to be happening July 31st through August 3rd. And this is not a proclamation that has been done before. And thanks for Councilor Young for linking us up and sharing this. But basically, the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra and the City of Vancouver have a partnership where they together host the Vancouver USA Arts and Music Festival. And so they would like the county council to also join in and help them get the word out by making a proclamation. If council is supportive, it would be proclaimed next week. And so we'd just be looking to see if council has a thumbs up, and if so, who might be interested in reading it.
I'm a thumbs up. Other counselors?
Yep.
Looks like thumbs up all
I
around.
appreciate the opportunity to read it, if everyone's okay with that.
Since it was your idea, I think
All right, thank
that
you.
would be great. Thanks for bringing that forward. Okay, moving on to councilor reports.
Sure.
Yes.
More than a report, I just have a question about public comments and what happened this morning. This may be more a legal question. If someone during public comments makes inappropriate comment, a comment that is not germane to the issues on the agenda or is clearly racist, do we have the power to end the comments right then and there, and then they lose their ability to make any comments for that meeting, the rest of the meeting?
Counselor, if the conduct is of concern, is sufficient to render the orderly proceedings of the meeting unfeasible, which is, I think, kind of a big jump. I mean, here we had some issues the commenter left, came back, was upset, but was not at that point yelling or screaming or rendering a meeting infeasible. So if the meeting is rendered unfeasible as an open public meeting, then the next step in general, if the person refuses to calm down and be quiet, is to recess the meeting and go online. We did this, council did this. Most of you do not recall. Well, 2 of you do and 2 of you don't. It happened several times towards the end of last year.
Okay, but if it does come to that level where it is, I don't know what the legal term. Infeasible. If it meets that standard, who makes the decision, and can someone make the decision on the fly to cut off the comment so it does not continue? Because that person could potentially continue doing inappropriate comments. And
I
we're
would
just letting
recommend that any counselor can say point of order, which then triggers the chair who's responsible for conducting the meeting. She then makes the statement of you need to cease and desist on these types of comments. If they don't, then we'll take a 10-minute recess and go online.
Got it.
But the chair is the one that actually has to be the one. to
And then everyone else who wishes to be involved in the meeting must go online as well. So if staff are making a presentation, that has to be online.
Go ahead.
Okay, I suppose that's a possibility, but
What was that possibility? We didn't hear it.
When council goes online, community members can still stay in the room, so they have access to watch. Staff members could stay in the room if they choose, or we could go online as well.
but community members would not then have the opportunity, none of them, to comment.
Staff.
That are present, but I believe when this occurred before, yelling continued in this hearing room, even though the counselors were online. Yes, go ahead.
So this is consistent and incredibly disruptive behavior. Does it only affect the council, but the audience in the hearing room? The city of Vancouver has been able to stop this. So can you explain to me how that happens? If they're able to stop this, if they're able to ban these individuals from disrupting council time, yet we are not able to do it. Help me understand that.
I would like
Direction from the PA.
Yeah, I would like to, if you would like to address that, let's talk about that in executive session under potential litigation. And we can
So
go
I'm inclined to
through
think
it.
that it's
It's
staff
a
that doesn't want to
rather-
do anything. That's what I'm inclined to think.
It's the elected prosecuting attorney.
That it's staff that is refusing to do anything.
I would distinguish between staff and an elected.
Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
if I may. To me, this is not interruption of a meeting. This is hate speech. To me, this has increased to a level much beyond whether or not we're able to functionally hold a meeting. And so something needs to be done. This cannot happen in our hearing room. So I don't know what conversations have taken place with the prosecuting attorney, but I would like him to, in whatever capacity, whether that's an executive session or in a public meeting, I would like to have that discussion.
There are 2 elected offices that are affected here. It's not just the prosecutor. And when I say affected, would be taking part in what you all decide you want to do. So it's the prosecutor and the sheriff. They would both have to be part of the proceedings. I would be happy to discuss them with you in an executive session.
I think I would be supportive of that, and that we should have a direct conversation with the prosecuting attorney and the sheriff.
And that is something that you would probably want to invite them to do.
So we've asked that. We asked that a couple of weeks ago and it's still not in our.
With all due respect, Counselor, I did mention to you that one of the electeds was out of the office, so it was going to be after the holiday. But I will add it on as the executive session and coordinate with the electeds.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up.
And one more thing, please do not, by any stretch of the imagination, assume that anyone on staff or any part of an elected official's office approves of the speech that's being made or thinks that it's okay.
So then let's do something about it.
Yep, let's, executive session is the place to go.
Okay. Thank you. We'll keep pursuing that promptly. Any other counselor reports? Counselor Young?
I do.
Oh,
Well, about 2-3 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to go in place of Councillor Little to the Regional Disaster Preparedness Organization's meeting, monthly meeting, I believe it is. And we had an opportunity to take I believe it's called the Portland Spirit, boat along the river, to the critical energy infrastructure along the port. And the purpose of that was to take a tour of the 630 tanks that sit along the riverbank that hold 351 million gallons of oil at any given time, and have a discussion of how we can mitigate a potential 9.0 or higher earthquake that would have significant damage to these facilities. And as a result, 351 million gallons of oil ending up in the ground surface and in the river. Now, we didn't come up with a plan. The objective was just to visit the facilities along the riverbank and have an initial conversation of what this Regional Disaster Preparedness Organization can do. And the RDPO is made up of different organizations from both Oregon and Washington, including elected officials. I wasn't familiar with the amount of oil that sits along the riverbank of the Willamette, but it is concerning that we don't have a solid plan of what could potentially happen if, in fact, there was a natural disaster that caused significant damage. So, interesting conversation, very informative, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to go.
Thanks for filling in for me.
Absolutely.
thank you for that report. Who would be responsible for putting that plan together? This entity that you
Yes.
just mentioned? Okay.
That is correct. And along with a bunch of different governmental and state and federal agencies, local, state, and federal.
Would that be something that would come back to the council potentially for approval, or just we would participate?
That's a really good question. It was my first time on this committee. I think that Council Little will have more information in the future as they continue to develop a plan in the event of a major natural disaster.
Thank you. Councilor Young?
Council Prentice, did you want to talk about yesterday?
Thank you. One last thing.
I'm sorry.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
it's okay. I totally forgot about that. Yesterday, both Councilor Little and I had the chance to tour the city of Ridgefield, city of about 7 square miles. Didn't get a chance to cover the entire city, but both County Manager Steve Stewart and City Mayor Matt Cole hosted us, took us around. We visited the new commercial retail spaces that are developing along the I-5 corridor that include Costco, which is bringing about $1 million. It's estimated to bring $1 million in sales taxes a year. In-N-Out that is due to open in a couple of weeks, and a number of other retailers. We had a chance to look at a number of housing developments along, I believe it was Pioneer. That's like the main corridor that extends from the freeway to downtown. We had a chance to tour a number of other developments in the outskirts and potential areas within the urban growth boundary that they are looking at developing housing. They're looking at developing industrial and other commercial spaces. It was a very informative tour. We asked a number of questions. We learned a heck of a lot of what their future plan is. I am pleased to say that the current council and current county city manager are very focused on increased density in certain pockets of the community of the city that also incorporate walking trails to commercial spaces nearby. So it was a great opportunity to learn a little bit more about the city of Ridgefield. And the development that's potentially going up along the riverfront, facing 5,000 acres of federal protected land. So I'm excited about the future plans that they have and the intentional planning that they're doing.
You should probably check in with the local fire department because it's tax increment financing that is financing those things. And
You're absolutely right. They mentioned that.
and the fire chief would have something to say about that. But anything else?
No, that's all for me.
Okay.
I only have one thing to add to that, and that is for all that live in the city of Ridgefield and the surrounding area, even the city manager of Ridgefield does not know when In-N-Out is going to open. So that was good.
They make the announcement 1 or 2 days before it's opening. But for those In-N-Out fans, there is an In-N-Out that will be open on Mill Plain and 136 in Clark County District 3.
Yes, so thank you, and bear with me. I have a few reports here. I will skip a couple for continuity purposes, but I did want to mention that yesterday I had the opportunity to not participate in, but observe DUI court. Had the opportunity to be in Judge Bartlett's room and listen to the conversation, and there was an individual that had a significant history and past with law enforcement and challenges in his life that DUI court made all the difference in the world for him. He was able to turn that around. It was a real emotional event to watch. And it just really confirms to me that everybody's path is a little bit different, you know, and we have to maintain as many paths as possible for people to be able to get better and improve their lives. Wanted to thank them for the invitation and for hosting me there. I also had the opportunity, this was an interesting one, to go out on the 4th of July from about 8 p.m. until about around 12:30 with Vancouver Fire. Started out with Station 2 and migrated to Station 4 so I could see kind of the boundary between. It was very interesting driving down 4th Plain at the boundary, and you look south and you see something, you look north and you see something much different. But I will say that there were plenty of fireworks on both sides. Just there was significantly less on the south end city limits. But I really enjoyed their company. I learned a lot from them. I want to give them a shout out for accommodating me. I did my best to stay out of their way as they were doing important stuff. Interestingly enough, I only saw one fire. And that's a testament actually to how good they do their job, because we would try to go to a fire and by the time we get there, there'd be a different station. It was already out. So they're doing a fantastic job with that. And I just appreciate the time and the experience that I was able to get from being a part of that experience on the 4th of July.
Councilor Young, did you say 8 p.m.?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, it had started prior to that. You know, people light them off during the day. I don't understand that, but they're so excited, I guess, and they can't wait for it to get dark. And then the last thing that I did want to mention is I was able to go on a tour of the development that's taking place at Philida Park with Brian McCall and George Welsh. I appreciate them taking us through. That was, I don't know if you guys are aware of that. That was something that the county and staff had worked with the developer, which is a nonprofit, and helped facilitate that project coming into reality, which is, I can't remember how many units, but it's many units of senior, very extremely affordable housing. And PACE, which is, it's operated by Providence, I believe, and it's a really beneficial program for the entirety of the county because they will drive anywhere within 45 miles, pick seniors up and bring them into this facility where they have access to all the services that they need in one location. And then they get a ride back home. So huge public benefit to this affordable housing for seniors. And it was a pleasure to see it. It is completely framed now. They have put a roof on it now, and it's a matter of time before it's able to open up and house some of our most vulnerable citizens in the community. That's all I have.
And some credit to you, Councilor Young, for bringing that to the council to move it along when they had a quick deadline to submit something. So
They did. They had a vision, and they're the ones that got it to the finish line.
yeah. Okie doke. I have a quick report from CTRAN. We had a board meeting last night. An interesting thing came up related to the board composition, and I distributed a letter that CTRAN received from Washington State Department of Transportation indicating that CTRAN is out of compliance with the board composition. And there's a deadline, I believe, October 1st to come into compliance. And if they don't, it could mean withholding of significant grant funding. An interesting twist to all of this is CTRAN doesn't form their board themselves. It's state regulated, and the representation required by the state is that it be proportional based on population. And if it were proportional based on population, well, currently Vancouver is underrepresented, as is Clark County. And if it was proportional, Vancouver would go from 3 to 4 board members, and Clark County would go from 2 to 3 board members. And there would be a remaining 2 seats would be the largest of the small cities, which I believe are Camas and Battleground. There is a process for reviewing the board composition, the way to get people onto the board. It goes through the board composition review committee. So CTRAN passed a motion to convene that review committee in August. The makeup of that review committee, and it convenes every 4 years to review the composition. It would be all 5 of the county councilors and 1 each from each of the cities would make up that review committee. And that will be convened sometime in August. So this is just a heads up that this is going to be occurring. And I don't think there's, I don't know if Kathleen, you were part of that. This is all new to all of us. So CTRAN will convene it, and we'll all get invited to participate in this. Oh, Councilor Belcott, yes.
Chair, I don't see that in my email. Can you send that to us in email?
Yes, I can. I didn't get it out quick enough, so I just made copies. But Michelle will get it to you.
Thank you.
You bet.
Chair?
Yes.
How is it, I mean, how is it determined? Is it only cities that are receiving the benefits of it? I mean, because I know there's the area where the taxes are collected, and there are areas that are not. So, I mean, how do they determine that? And I am also curious if there's any consideration given to the fact that the county council is districted. Because my district is the city of Vancouver. I'm not city council, obviously, but still I might have the viewpoint of the city.
Well, likewise, Battleground would be, or Camas for that matter. 2 of you are in the city of Vancouver. So I think that is just what it is.
Okay, I just, I understand and it's state law and we're gonna need to comply with it, but at the same time, I have a bit of, I feel like it's a bit inequitable at this point. I like to give the minority a bigger voice, and this is reducing it. I'm not a big fan of that.
Well, I think the intent, and it's always hard to figure out the legislative intent, but that the people most likely to participate in transit, this would give them more representation than the smaller cities
Yeah.
being involved. So,
It's
but we'll have, think about this. We'll have an opportunity to deliberate when we participate in
Sure.
the, what is it? The Board Composition Review Committee. So that's,
well, I appreciate you bringing this
Yep.
forward.
yep. Okay, any other reports from counselors? Okay, then let's move on to work session requests.
None today.
None today. Policy updates. Back to Jordan.
All right. Good afternoon, Council. Again, for the record, Jordan Bogie. I wanted to have a brief conversation with Council today about affordable housing and more specifically, the 1406 funding stream, which the county receives to support affordable housing development in Clark County. And so, as you'll recall, a few months ago, I had a conversation at a council time with you all about the 1406 funds, which, just to reiterate what 1406 funds are, in 2019, the Washington State Legislature passed House Bill 1406, which is a local revenue sharing program for local governments to support affordable housing. And what it does is it provides Clark County a 0.0146% remittance against the 6.5% state sales tax. So if you look, you go out to the restaurant, you see the portion of your bill that is sales tax, 6.5% of that is Washington State sales tax, and they give us a little piece of that back to the county to support affordable housing development. Funding from the 1406 stream can be used for capital work on affordable housing. So this is like development of new units, operations and maintenance for affordable or supportive housing, and rental assistance programs. For housing development purposes, the funding is really targeted at 60% of AMI or below. And so just to give a little context, 60% of AMI is approximately a household income of about $55,000 a year or less. So I had a conversation after our last conversation about this with a finance team, because there was some interest from the council in the possibility of bonding against these funds. Since we only receive about $800,000 a year from this funding source, that is not a large, substantial amount of money when it comes to affordable housing development, something that could cost in the tens of millions of dollars. Looking at bonding, and talking to the finance team, they said that it was not a great use of funding for a couple different reasons. One is that it's going to be difficult to bond against these funds because it is a sunset program. So we received these funds for 20 years after the legislation was passed and then adopted by the county, which was in 2019. So we have about 14 years of revenue left coming into the county. And even if we were to bond against these funds, it's likely that we would only raise about $10 to $12 million, which, when you consider the cost of the bonding, the limited timeline, and the sunset, the finance team really couldn't recommend that process. And so we're kind of in this limbo where we, as a county, we could do an annual RFP process for the smaller amount of funds. We could do an RFP process that obligates some of these funds over a longer duration of time. And so, if there was a project that could receive funding on an annual basis to support programming, that is also something that we could go out for a bid for. We could do some kind of combination of that. And additionally, have been having some conversations. I met myself, Councilor Young, Chair Marshall, some representatives from the Vancouver Housing Authority, and Treasurer Topper met a couple of weeks ago just to hear from the VHA and get a little bit of their perspective on this issue. And some of the things they mentioned with the current landscape related to affordable housing, in the last year or 18 months or so, some issues have been coming up in the affordable housing market. The affordable housing market, as I know many of you are aware, is mostly built through the LIHTC system. And so LIHTC stands for Low Income Tax Credit System. And so, with those tax credits, sometimes or previously, affordable housing developers could often get dollar for dollar match on those tax credits. So they're putting dollars in, they're getting tax credits against the project. Typically, something they would consider good is something in the high 90 cents to the dollar when they're looking at tax credits. Currently, they are getting something more like 80 to 85 cents on the dollar for these tax credits. And that can represent millions of dollars of impact to a large project. And so something that we're hearing is our affordable housing developers in the county are having trouble bridging the gap between the costs of the projects that they're trying to work on and the available funding streams. As we look at the state, and the state is having its budget challenges and lack of available funds to support affordable housing evenly throughout the state, as well as some of the changes that are happening at the federal level, where they are a little less friendly to affordable housing development in some of these programs. There is potentially an opportunity for local dollars to fill in the gap to some point. And so 1406 funds are a funding source that we currently have available. There are some non-1406 funding options, including the affordable housing sales tax, which does already exist in Vancouver. It can be done councilmanically. It would be a 0.1% sales tax. We've had some initial conversations with Treasurer Topper about, could we be creative in some ways? There are potential options related to the Treasurer's Office can offer a line of credit program that could be an option that could be utilized. They would potentially be able to offer terms that are more favorable than some of the other borrowers that our affordable housing developers would borrow against, and then would have the benefit also of they would be paying interest back to the county over time. So there are kind of a few moving parts here, but essentially, I just wanted to at least start this conversation up again now that we have a little bit more information about the process and about the fact that bonding is maybe not the right path forward. And I just wanted to take council's temperature and see where you all were at in terms of, would you prefer to look more toward an annual RFP allocating the limited dollars that we have on an annual basis? Would you be interested in doing an RFP that was looking a little bit more long-term, where we might allocate funding over a set number of years? Could be the full 14 that is left, or some shorter duration depending on the project, or some combination of the two of them. And then also just generally, if there's any interest or council direction in how you all would like to go in supporting affordable housing, I can kind of dig into some of those pathways a little bit more. And so that's really where the conversation stands. And so right now we're at a point where I would look to council to see if there's any direction that you'd like to provide or any conversation that you'd like to have related to these funding sources and how we might be able to, as a county, support affordable housing development.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Little.
Yeah, I was just wondering, since we have Alicia Topper in the room, would you be willing to give us any advice on your recommendations?
I think it might be good for the council itself to.
Or just to hear a little bit more information?
I'm happy to sit and wait until after you've deliberated and answer any questions you might have. I always have opinions, so
Yeah,
happy to
that's
share.
what I like. Okay.
Thank you.
And I actually will have a question for Alicia in a little while, but I just wanted to kind of make a point that the light side credits are, they're exhaustive, they're limited, right, on a yearly basis. And so in Clark County, particularly the city of Vancouver with the Heights development, is using up a lot of those credits, which prevents a lot of other organizations to potentially access light side credits to continue building affordable housing until the next fiscal year. And of course, funding is being cut by the federal government, so that makes it even more challenging. What I'd be curious about to learn, $800,000 is not a heck of a lot. In fact, it might build 2 units, right? If it was to be allocated to one organization. There are multiple organizations in Clark County that could benefit from these grants, even if it is a little. But what I'd like to see is more kind of a sustainable process, whether it's multi-year funding, right, for an organization, or potentially, and this is where Alicia Topper might come in, Treasurer Alicia Topper, is taking some sort of or some line of credit, for 4 or 5 years of funding so that we can utilize a large chunk of money for an RFP at once. I don't know if that's an option. I think I brought it up to your attention, Jordan. And looking at, again, 4 or 5 years, so that's roughly about $4 million all at once. And I don't know what that looks like. There weren't many details shared, but I'd like to know a little bit more about that possibility.
Okay, other counselors, set the stage for Alicia.
Yes, I would like for Treasurer Topper to comment more on the loan. I like the idea of loans, very similar to the perpetuating fund that we created with the Treasurer's help. Of course, on the housing, the home buyer program that we have, it's a loan. So it's after a certain period of time that comes back and it can be reused, whereas a grant will not ever be able to reused by the county. So I'd love to hear that. My initial thoughts too, as far as any kind of an RFP process, I think we have multiple funds that we're using, not necessarily for affordable housing, but usually there's a tie to that somewhat in the terms of the opioid dollars and mental health sales tax. And I think it would be, with the dollar amount of the fund, I feel like it would be, it's almost not quite worth the administrative burden to set up an RFP policy and procedure. And I see this as kind of an opportunity that we can collectively as a council determine what our priorities are in affordable housing. And this could be essentially a council directed fund for projects that we see fits our policy and goals that we want to achieve as a council. The other idea that I had was the city often waives system development charges and impact fees. We don't have a system for that currently. However, I would say that you have to be careful with that, because when you do waive those fees, it places a larger strain on the system, which requires a higher fee, which leads to less affordable housing. So, this fund could potentially be used to backfill the impact fee accounts when those fees are being waived for an affordable development. So that's just kind of an idea that I had that I wanted to throw out.
Counselor Belcott, did you have any thoughts or things you'd like to add at this time?
No.
Okay, thank
Chair,
you. Yes.
I have a question for Councilor Young. So here's what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're suggesting is the potential waiver of development fees. What does happen across jurisdictions, right, to increase housing, and utilizing the $800,000 annually that we're being allocated to pay for that?
Yeah, it'd probably be a portion of it. It likely wouldn't extinguish the entirety of the fund. But yeah, the idea is that it backfills the impact fee account so that there's not a shortage. And and my vision would be that it has to be a truly affordable project, probably 60% AMI or less requirement. So yes, that's what it was.
Yeah, I don't dislike the idea. That's actually not a bad idea. However, we still need to find resources to build more infrastructure, right? There's just not enough. I don't know that just waiving development fees, backfilling or filling that gap with, what we're being allocated right now is enough. So we have to find better solutions
Oh, 100% agree.
I would just say we don't need to find the answer today. And that Jordan is looking for some direction from the council related to affordable housing, because I think it was just Councillor Young and I and Jordan pulling our heads together with some other folks to think about this. So we've thought about this, and we'd like to think about it a little bit more. I am interested in really increasing the pie so that there's more resources. And I put it in the context of the comp plan update and all of those income bands that the county and the cities need to be meeting. And I think it's impossible to meet the lowest income bands unless there is some sort of a subsidy. So I don't want to set everyone up for failure. And if there's an opportunity to find some increased resources, particularly if it's a councilmatic decision that could be made. But I think the direction I'm hearing is that people are very interested. And if you want to delve into this in more detail, and maybe we could have a work session just on this topic and invite the Vancouver Housing Authority and Treasurer Topper to do a full-blown presentation on maybe some recommendations on options going forward. So that's to try to summarize all of this. And Treasurer Topper, if you'd like to chime in at this time, you're welcome to do so.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to have this dialogue with you. My office are happy to do any research that you would like on what a line of credit from the county to the Housing Authority would look like and what the statutory limitations would be. In terms of my work around affordable housing, for the record, I am on the Washington State Housing Finance Commission, which is the organization that grants the low-income housing tax credits. And I'm also on the board of the Vancouver Housing Authority, just for full disclosure. I do feel as though 1406 funds are limited. As you stated, $800,000 a year does not go a long way. It could make a significant impact on a project if they could use those funds as a guarantee against a loan that would close the gap between having full funding to complete a project. That would be a longer term commitment that the council would be making and earmarking those funds for a single organization or project versus having an annual RFP where you're having to decide and go through an application process, which is timely on staff and may not make as deep of an impact. But to Council Member Chair Sue's comment, there are councilmatic sales tax options that you have in front of you today that you could take that would have a deeper impact, generate more revenue, where you could have an RFP process to make decisions here within the council. So I am at your disposal for use and having this discussion and preparing presentations if needed.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Yes, go ahead.
So just to be clear, I wasn't suggesting a line of credit to the Vancouver Housing Authority. I was suggesting potentially a line of credit to the county. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay. And so I think there was a misunderstanding in the conversation that I had a couple of days ago with Jordan. What I was envisioning is, multiplying that, taking $800,000 over the next 4 or 5 years all at once, but somehow borrow it against.
Which I think is what Jordan spoke to in the council's kind of desire to explore bonding against that revenue stream, meaning you would get a one lump sum, make payments over time to repay it. Most bonds, the term limits are going to be longer than what your funding stream will permit based on the sunset. So the idea that I had heard floated would be having a line of credit that would go to an organization who is developing 60%, 80% below median income. That revenue stream would be a portion of the repayment. That way it wasn't just capped at the 14 years.
Okay, got it. Okay, so it was just simply then a misunderstanding on my end, but I want to be very mindful. I'm not looking at extending line of credits to just one organization. I love the Vancouver Housing Authority. I myself at Fourth Plain am working with them directly for full disclosure, but there are many other organizations that could benefit from this funding.
Thank you. Did you want to make a comment, Councilor Little?
Yeah, I just want to, thanks for coming up here. I'm just curious, how much would be generated by the affordable housing tax that we could do councilmatically now?
It would be, I think, 0.1%, which is equal to what you are collecting for the mental health sales tax as a comparison.
Which is about 13, 14.
Pretty significant. So that could be one of the sources for this RFP pot, where we determine maybe the types of projects that it would go to.
Possibly.
Yeah.
But I would just ask Jordan, do you feel like you have enough direction from council?
Let me summarize what I think I've been hearing and see if this is what council is interested in. So it sounds like council is interested in potentially having a work session with some affordable housing providers and the treasurer to talk through potential options. Some of those options could include, the ability to do loans or a line of credit, utilizing 1406 funds in a couple of ways, as we've discussed today. Looking at how much might be raised officially from the affordable housing sales tax that could be taken if council so chose, and would raise, as they said, about the same as the mental health sales tax, minus the split that is in the city of Vancouver, since they already have taken that tax. So the functional money going to other county projects would be less, but we can model that a little bit. And then based on that, kind of move forward and see, based on that menu of options and that discussion at the work session, what council might want to do next.
Okay, is that an accurate summary?
Sure.
Yes, go ahead.
Just, I don't want to stall a conversation, but I wanted to expand a little bit more on what Treasurer Topper mentioned at the end there, because I didn't quite follow the other day. So what she's suggesting is using the funding that's coming in this and dedicating it towards debt repayment for a larger project. So now, if it's like 800,000 a year, that would amount to a pretty sizable loan, would it not? But the one thing I'm curious about is whether a council today can contractually obligate that fund for future years. Have you looked into that at all?
I would look to the PA to answer that from a legal perspective. From an anecdotal perspective, you are committing future revenue anytime that you approve a bond financing.
Okay, yeah, I would love to have a larger discussion on this. I think there's multiple ways that we could use this that would be beneficial.
Great. Okay, I think I didn't count the thumbs, but my sense is people are in agreement to the work session and delving into this. Unanimous. Great. Okay, anything else, Jordan?
That's all I have for you today. Thank you, council.
Okay, thank you. Now, executive session. Do we have time for executive session? We were flexible on this.
Yeah, I would leave that up to council if you would like to just move that to next week.
Or we can just get out of the way.
I agree.
Let's do it.
Okay, I have a 4:00 appointment, so I have probably about maybe 15 minutes. I'll dedicate to as far as we can go, but you'll have a quorum any way you look at it.
And the executive session is only scheduled for 10 minutes.
Okay.
So we'll have
And
plenty of
so
time.
the council is going to convene in executive session, real estate RCW 42.30.110, paren 1, paren little b for 10 minutes. That would put us at 25 till 3:35 is another way to say it. Okay. Council has returned from our executive session. There's no after action, and without objection, this meeting is adjourned.